it's your girl, Ayoka, and I am here with another episode. And I actually got a new microphone. Maybe you can tell. Hopefully, the audio is better and it isn't trash or anything. But yeah, please let me know if you can actually tell that my audio is better. I want to know that. I would like to know that. Don't mind your business. Mind my podcast, Mindelixir. So, to the main topic of this episode. Ever since this quarantine has started, with socially distancing and social isolation, I've kind of been thinking about how sometimes I feel so lonely. And I mean, I know that I'm not literally alone, obviously, but it can just feel that way sometimes. And I know that for some people, loneliness, it can actually have real negative implications on both their physical and mental health, and like taking care of your mental health is just important as your physical health. Obviously, they're both part of your health, both part of the same system. And loneliness, it can be different for different people. It just really depends on their perspective. Everything is about perspective. Yeah, perspective plays a huge role in a lot of things. So for this episode, as the description hopefully indicates, I will be talking about loneliness, social connections, and all of that. Yay! And I will be doing a sort of advice, self help. I don't know. I'm just trying to end my episodes on a more positive note. So near the end, I'm going to be kind of doing that. And I actually spent a bit more time working on this episode because I wanted to hit as many points as possible and I don't know, just get all those points and reach as many points as possible. So basically, let me talk about the phenomenon, or not really the phenomenon, but the feeling. Now, Oxford defines loneliness as sadness because one has no friends or company, but I really want to expound upon that definition. I want to go into it and like talk about the different types because I feel like loneliness it can actually be caused by a variety of things. There's multiple things that could cause you to feel lonely, whether it's in a moment or a long period of time. Maybe it's because you feel left out, or maybe as though you can't relate to someone, or as if there's no one there for you. And for me, I would describe myself as an introverted extrovert. Basically, I'm a bit more shy, but at the same time, I still like to have those social connections. I still like to have those interactions. I still like to be out with people. And I basically haven't seen my friends or let alone anyone my age, any teenagers since the whole beginning of this pandemic. And I didn't have that many friends to begin with. And of course, I know that it's not always it's always supposed to be quality over quantity. You shouldn't base your worth off of how many friends you have and all of that. Like having good friends is better than having a bunch of fake friends, which is so true. But sometimes it can be lonely, especially I remember during school. So flashback to school time. I remember that sometimes I would just feel so lonely and sad about it. And like, how do I describe this? Like, I just feel lonely in my classes, I guess. And of course, I did appreciate my friends during that time, and I still do. But I like to be around people and talking to them. But sometimes I just freeze up and I feel so awkward talking, which wasn't great for me, that great of a thing for me since, like I said, I'm a social person and introverted extrovert. And I didn't even have my friends in most of my classes. And that was just so awkward for me, bro. Like, a lot of the time, I just felt like no one really knew me. And I honestly still do sometimes. Yeah, I still do. It's just that lack of deep social connections that I guess that's what can make me feel lonely sometimes. And I'm not sure if that makes sense, but like just hear me out because the genuineness in friendships, like if you lack that in your companionships, then that can make you feel lonely. And another example of this is just feeling left out or just maybe not being able to relate to your friends or whatever. And I actually recall one time during Christmas. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's basically one of those secret Santa gift exchanges. But anyway, so I remember how in the mornings us students at school we would hang out in the gym. We would either hang out in the gym or we also had the option of going to teachers' classrooms before the actual class started, before school itself started for tutoring or help or just to hang out with your friends. And I remember on this one day I had to go turn in my an assignment for a teacher. So I went to her classroom and then I saw all of my friends there together having fun. They were doing some secret Santa gift exchange. And at that moment I just felt so left out, so alone. And like and although later I did find out that this whole secret Santa thing, it was actually organized by someone else that I wasn't really friends with, but I saw like several of my friends there and they were just having fun, and it's the fact that none of them had even thought to tell me about it or even asked to include me. And like whenever I saw that, I literally wanted to cry. I felt like I was about to, because I just felt so left out and so alone. I mean, I understand that it was organized by someone else that I wasn't really friends with. I understand that. So like that's probably why I wasn't included, but just the fact that I saw all my friends together having fun and not one of them had thought, "Oh, hey, why don't we invite Ayoka? Maybe she would like to participate in this." That just really annoyed me and it made me feel so sad and like left out, which can result in loneliness. And especially how usually a lot of the times I would just be sitting in the gym before school quite a few times, oftentimes by myself, just waiting for the bell to go to so that I could go to class. The fact that they were all together was like, ugh, I don't know, but everything is fine now. Don't worry. And another thing I dreaded that I just felt so alone. I mean, I feel as though school, that was where a lot of my loneliness happened. I'm just now thinking about that, but that's true. But then at the same time, without school, I wouldn't really have had any friends because or anyone to talk to or socialize with because I don't really go to I didn't go to that many activities outside of school at the time. But anyway, another thing at school that just made me feel so much more lonely and isolated, I guess, was lunchtime. And I actually kind of really dreaded lunch. Not dreaded. I mean, I liked eating, obviously, but at the same time I kind of dreaded lunch because I mean, obviously I'm not going to sit in the bathroom. No, not like any of those teen movies, but it was just the fact that everyone was there socializing, having fun, chatting it up with their besties. And then I was there literally just sitting quietly and it just felt so awkward and alone. And that's what like made me used to dread lunch. And that would make me feel as though I needed more friends so that I wouldn't ever be alone, which doesn't really make sense, but it made sense to me at the time. And I actually recall how one time at lunch, you know how we all have our designated areas where we usually sit? Yeah, I moved to sit next to this one girl because been starting to become friends with her. And then she just left that spot and stopped sitting there. And then I was literally, well, I don't want to dramatize it, but I was literally just left alone by myself sitting there. And it was like so awkward because I don't even know why she left. Like, ugh. And I actually recall how during during classes, another reason that would kind of make me want to have more friends was how I would always feel like I would be alone during class. You know, just have no one to talk to. And I was like, "Oh, if I had more friends, then they could be it would be more likely that they could get in my classes with me." And which that logic doesn't really make sense. Like that wouldn't make me more or less alone. But I don't know, that made sense to me at the time. And don't worry, this isn't going this whole episode isn't just me ranting, but I just wanted to add my own personal experiences with loneliness so that maybe other people because maybe other people can relate to that, and I'm just trying to keep it genuine and share, share my own experiences, put a little bit of perspective into this and not just make it just me giving advice. And by the way, you can also send me voice messages if you want. There's a link down below in the description. Oh, I'll try to include the voice messages in the episodes if I can, and if you send them in. But anyway, back to my point. I was saying like how loneliness can be because like you just want a person or you just want a human being. You're just yearning for human connection basically, and you just want someone to reciprocate that to or with you, but you don't have it. That's another thing that can cause loneliness. Or maybe you do, and it's just not in the way that you exactly want. Speaking about how having friends doesn't always equal being less alone, and I think for some people especially, I know how in those teen movies, whenever they give the super popular girl a backstory, you know how she has all those friends, but she's actually really super lonely because even though she has all these friends at school, even though everyone wants to be her friend, she doesn't actually have the genuine connections with those people, and she actually lacks a genuine companionship or genuine friendships. That's why she feels so alone in those movies, which is kind of why I'm saying making friends doesn't, like, you shouldn't just go out and make some friends to stop being lonely. Same with how just because you're single doesn't mean you should go get a boyfriend or significant other just to stop being single. No, because that would not be a great thing to just do it for that singular reason. But what I am trying to emphasize is that it's important to actually make quality. What I'm trying to emphasize the importance of these quality friendships and connections that you make with other people. Like you should forge friendships, relationships, connections that are good for you. And that is something that I myself, I actually still need to work on because I basically haven't really talked to anyone my age and had like a actual full conversation with anyone my age in quite a while. Other than, of course, those short, awkward Zoom calls for class and all of that. And regular phone calls. But I miss being with people face to face, you know? And another thing I wanted to talk about was how even though we literally live in the age of the most social connection, that can still make us feel more alone than ever. Like with social media. I know that like even though social media it literally has the word social in it, it's supposed to be social, not alone. It really is a great way for me to connect with others. But sometimes I'll see some people I follow or people that I used to know, and they're sharing pictures of themselves hanging out with their friends and sometimes and having fun with their friends. And sometimes I just wish I could have that, you know? And it just makes me feel more alone. I don't want to sound like I'm just a complaining, but I'm just trying to, put those feelings and thoughts out there. Those type of friendships and like that are always hanging out and stuff like that. And I know social media it's just the highlight role of your life. It's not actually everything that has occurred in your life, but still I feel like that does kind of have an effect in how lonely some people can feel whenever especially whenever someone is comparing themselves to people on over social media because not everything on social media is fake. There is fake stuff on there. Don't get me wrong, but not everything on social media is fake. And sometimes it can be hard to decipher what's fake or real. And I just think that it's just that we as people, we just crave those interactions, you know? Most humans like connection. Maybe it's just through a text or just hanging out, just a FaceTime call, but we like to feel understood and connected. And being ignored, feeling left out, feeling lonely is not that great of a feeling. And especially something I've noticed is like even though people are lonely, it can be hard for them to reach out because of that potential rejection, you know? So let me explain this. Probably a whole lot of other people feel this way too, but the reason it can be hard to reach out, maybe rather whether it's just through a text or otherwise. I mean, sometimes it's as if we just feel as though we're going to get rejected, and that feeling is what holds us back. In fact, the other day I saw this poll and quite a huge amount of people actually feel as though they're bothering their friends or people they text whenever they're texting them. It's like, wow, other people actually feel that way too. But then I understand because I think it's partly because we all read too much into things. And sometimes it feels as though we're always putting in the effort to reach out. And this person isn't ever the one to reach out to me. So it kind of makes me feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't reach out to them because it's just a whole bunch of what ifs. And yes, communication is important, but I feel like whenever our brain it just gets stuck in those what ifs, that's when things start becoming crazy, wacko. That's whenever you become more hesitant to reach out because what if you get left on red or ignored? What if you're bothering them? What if you're a terrible texter? I don't know, anything like that. But that's what can stop us from actually reaching out to people to try to feel more connected and less lonely. That's what actually can stop us. One of the things I feel like. And I don't know. I feel as if this can be one of the reasons that causes us to isolate ourselves and we just stay with that lingering, we just have that lingering feeling of loneliness and uncertainty. I don't know because it just feels like sometimes I feel as though I put in the effort to text someone time and time again. And then it's like, oh, do they really like to text you? Do they really like communicating with you? You know? And it's all those what ifs. Do they really? Do they really? It's all of that that can hold us back and eventually stop. But then at the same time, you'll never know if you don't actually reach out to them. If you don't actually just straight up ask them, which is, I actually need to take my own advice. You know, I'm always giving advice and I actually just need to take it. Oh my gosh. But anyway, I wanted to just say it's okay to be alone. And honestly, there's really no easy way to just stop yourself from feeling or being lonely, but we should learn to accept the quiet and calm and get to know ourselves, your hobbies and who you are as a person. Get to know your who you are as a person better. And sometimes, or at least sometimes I might translate the feelings of loneliness or like internalize them into, oh, well, she's undesirable or she's unwanted. And that's why everyone leaves her alone. That's why she's so lonely. When I say her, I'm actually talking about like me. But my point is that that idea is just wrong. Just because no one's talking to you at the moment or you just feel lonely at the moment doesn't mean that you are unwanted, you know? And just because you feel lonely doesn't mean you are alone. And even that, it's okay to be alone because really it's just all about perspective and it isn't always a negative thing. We have to learn to rethink our beliefs because just because you feel lonely doesn't mean you actually are alone. Even if you are alone, doesn't mean that you are undeserving of that compassion, companionship, or connection. Just because you may feel like you're out of touch or you feel left out of groups and situations and friendships and all that sort of stuff, that doesn't mean it will always be that way for you. Our esteem doesn't and shouldn't lie in how many friends we have or whether we're constantly socializing. There are so many things that we let determine our self-worth, which we shouldn't, and we should learn to overcome that. We need to rethink our beliefs. And I hear it so often that we need to get comfortable with being alone, and that really is true. We may be uncomfortable, but that's maybe just because we don't want to be alone with our own thoughts. But really, you should let your mind run wild with your own thoughts. Embrace your own company. Embrace the stillness and solitude and the quietness of it all. Learn to enjoy the solitude. And I'm not saying that you should just go, that you must always be alone and that you need to go send yourself to some solitary confinement prison on a barren desert island. No, I'm simply saying that I think we should learn to be more comfortable being alone. Whether that's simply just getting off of social media for a while or going outside to have a picnic in your backyard because nature is really nice. Well, sometimes. Not those wasps. Those are not nice. Okay, maybe just going into your backyard for a picnic or if you're an artist, draw some art. Do whatever you like to do or discover something new you didn't like to do. Cultivate your hobbies and interests. And yeah. Okay, so for this ending part, I wanted to talk like what's been on my mind. How has my week been? You know? So on a lighter note, I actually got something I'm kind of excited about. I got a nose ring, which I know technically it's fake, but don't tell anybody. But let's just pretend that it's real and we're not going to tell anybody. Okay? But anyway, I was actually surprised that my parents let me get it. It's just this little gold septum ring, and it's very cute. And I just love jewelry of all types, so that was kind of a thing for me. I even like to make jewelry too. I remember I used to want to start a jewelry business. Okay, I say that like that was a long time in the past, but that was actually only a few months ago. So, ooh, I'm especially obsessed with piercings and I'm not even allowed to get any. I only have those two regular single piercings that everyone has on their ears. I got those when I was a baby, of course. But usually I'll just fake those piercings until, fake them. I got those little magnetic ones from Claire's to make it seem like I got a double piercing. And I got this little ring for my ear and those little crawlers that go up along your ear. If I could get a piercing like a real one, I would get a belly piercing. I kind of want to ask for one for my for my 15th birthday, but I highly doubt my parents would let me get that. So don't tell them, but actually, maybe I will. But anyway, I hope you gained something from this podcast. Just anything. I honestly have no idea, but hopefully you did. Maybe you felt less alone. But just remember that just because someone says they may feel lonely, that doesn't mean that they don't value and cherish the connections or the friendships that they already have. And don't forget, you can send me a voice message about anything. And yeah, thank you for listening. Bye. I totally appreciate you listening to this point. See you next time.